Okay, so imagine like going back in time and, giving yourself some serious keto advice. What would you say? And that's actually what we're diving into today. Someone who's been living the keto lifestyle for years and is sharing all the things they would do differently, like if they were starting out today.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how much our understanding of nutrition, keeps evolving, especially within a specific diet. Like keto really highlights the importance of, staying curious and adaptable.
Totally. So let's jump right into the keto time machine. First stop, sweeteners. They're kind of seen as the holy grail of keto, right? But this person actually thinks we need to rethink our love affair with them, even the ones that are, quote unquote keto friendly.
Right. They're suggesting that even those alternative sweeteners could be messing with our insulin levels more than we initially thought. And that's kind of a big deal for, weight management and metabolic health on keto.
So it's not about ditching sweeteners altogether, but being more aware of their potential impact. For those who do choose to use them, though, are there any quote unquote better choices out there?
Yeah, so they specifically recommend allulose and pure monk fruit as potentially better options. They even suggest looking for liquid monk fruit sweeteners that don't contain erythritol.
Erythritol. Weren't there some studies a while back claiming it was problematic?
Yeah, there were some studies, but this person actually addressed those studies in their own work, saying that they were flawed and don't really accurately represent erythritol's effects. However, they personally experienced some brain fog after consuming it and choose to limit it.
It's a good reminder that even with things generally considered safe, individual responses can vary. Now let's move on to another foundational aspect of keto, the power of whole foods. This person started keto way before all the fancy keto products flooded the market, and they're a big believer in keeping things simple.
Yeah, they're really advocating for that back to basics approach, focusing on, foods in their most natural state. They actually believe that the abundance of keto-friendly processed foods and snacks can make it easier to, slip up and deviate from the real core principles of the diet.
Totally. I can see that. It's so easy to get distracted by those, keto-friendly labels and lose sight of the real nutrient-dense foods. And speaking of veggies, they have a pretty surprising take on those as well.
You're talking about the oxalates?
Yes, they bring up a point that a lot of people may not even be aware of. Some veggies, particularly the ones high in oxalates, could actually contribute to issues like joint pain, especially on keto.
Right. It's not that all veggies are bad on keto. It's more about being mindful of the types and quantities you're consuming. Oxalates are naturally occurring in plants, and while they're generally harmless, some people can be more sensitive to them.
So which veggies are they recommending people be cautious with?
They specifically mention spinach as a high oxalate vegetable. They suggest exploring lower oxalate options like bok choy steamed kale, collard greens, cauliflower, and broccoli.
It's fascinating how, even within a specific diet like keto, there are so many nuances. Now let's talk protein. This person challenges conventional wisdom when it comes to protein intake on keto.
Yeah, they're really a strong advocate for higher protein intake than what's traditionally recommended. They even cite some emerging research that suggests increasing protein on keto could be a game changer for both fat loss and appetite control.
And they even recommend a specific protein powder that fits the bill.
Yes, they highlight a plant-based protein powder that they've found particularly effective for satiety and overall well-being on keto.
That's great, especially for those looking for plant-based options. Now remember those exogenous ketone supplements that were all the rage a while back? Seems like they might be making a comeback, at least according to this keto enthusiast.
They admit to being initially skeptical of exogenous ketones, but they now believe that they can have a place in a keto toolkit when used strategically.
So it's not just about using them or not, it's about being selective with the types of ketones you choose.
Exactly. They advise avoiding ketone supplements that contain 1,3-butanediol, which essentially gets converted into alcohol in the body.
Okay, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now on to two supplements that often get overlooked, creatine and taurine.
Yeah, those are two that this person found particularly helpful for managing muscle cramps, which is a common issue some people experience on keto. They even recommend a specific taurine dosage before activity, which is a great practical tip for anyone struggling with cramps.
Now here's a surprising twist. Incorporating low-fat days into a keto plan.
It's an interesting strategy that they've incorporated into their own keto journey. It involves strategically cycling calories by having occasional days where fat intake is lower while protein remains high.
I never would have thought to hear about low-fat anything on a keto plan. What's the logic behind this approach?
The idea is that these low-fat, higher-protein days can create a calorie deficit without sacrificing muscle mass, which can help accelerate fat loss.
So it's not about going low-fat all the time, but about using it strategically to boost results. We've covered a lot of ground already, and this is just the beginning.
Welcome back to our, deep dive into all things keto, uncovering some fascinating insights from someone who's been living the lifestyle for years, and they've learned a lot along the way.
Yeah, they're sharing all the things they wish they knew when they first started, based on the latest research and their personal experience. And let me tell you, some of this is seriously eye-opening. We were just about to dive into their updated take on bulletproof coffee, right?
Yes, that keto staple, that's almost a ritual for so many people.
Exactly. So what's their new perspective on this, morning classic?
Well, they've actually moved away from the traditional bulletproof coffee recipe of blending butter into their coffee.
Really, I've always thought that blending butter was just kind of a harmless way to, add those healthy fats to your morning routine. What's the issue there?
Well, they suggest that blending butter might actually change the structure of the butter itself and impact how it's absorbed by the body. They even mentioned discussions with other experts who noticed changes in their triglyceride levels after having bulletproof coffee made with blended butter.
Triglyceride. That's something I need to brush up on.
They're basically a type of fat found in your blood, and high levels can increase your risk of heart disease.
Got it. That makes sense. So if blending butter isn't ideal, what's the recommended alternative?
They suggest just keeping it simple with coffee, a splash of heavy cream, and some MCT oil.
MCT oil. Another keto favorite that's had its share of, ups and downs in popularity.
Absolutely, but it seems like MCT oil is making a comeback. There's a growing body of evidence supporting its ability to suppress appetite and boost ketone levels.
Interesting. What prompted them to kind of reintroduce MCT oil into their routine?
They highlight how MCT oil is so quickly absorbed and efficiently converted into ketones, which provides like a quick energy boost and helps curb those cravings.
So a win-win for keto. Now let's talk about dairy. It can be a bit of a minefield on keto, right? With some types more suitable than others.
You're right. Some people thrive on dairy while others find that it causes problems. This person emphasizes the importance of choosing wisely when it comes to dairy on keto.
What are their top recommendations?
They suggest focusing on aged hard cheeses like cheddar Parmesan Romano, and they specifically recommend seeking out A2 dairy varieties whenever possible.
A2 dairy. I've heard that term, but I'm not entirely sure what it means.
It basically refers to cow's milk that contains a different type of beta-casein protein compared to the more common A1 variety.
And why is A2 dairy preferred?
Well, some individuals find that the A1 beta-casein can actually cause digestive issues like bloating and gas, while A2 is generally easier to digest. This person, for example, found that switching to A2 dairy significantly reduced their digestive discomfort.
It's amazing how much these little details can impact our experience with a diet. Speaking of details, let's move on to nutrient supplementation. I know some people believe that if you're eating a well-rounded keto diet, you don't really need supplements.
That's true, but this person recommends incorporating a high-quality multivitamin into a keto routine. They acknowledge that even on keto, nutrient deficiencies can occur, especially if you're restricting certain food groups.
That makes sense. If you're cutting out entire categories of foods, you need to make sure you're not missing out on essential vitamins and minerals.
Exactly. They recommend choosing a multivitamin that's made from whole food sources as opposed to, synthetic versions.
So quality matters when it comes to supplements, just like with food. Now let's talk about nuts, another keto staple that can be both helpful and tricky.
Nuts are a convenient and tasty snack on keto, but they can be easy to overeat.
Portion control is key, especially with calorie-dense foods like nuts.
This person stresses being mindful of those portion sizes with nuts because the calories can add up quick. They also suggest limiting nuts that are high in polyunsaturated fats.
So which nuts get the thumbs up?
They still enjoy macadamia nuts and recommend Sakta inchi seeds as a good option. Both are lower in polyunsaturated fats and fit well within a keto framework.
I love these specific recommendations. It's so helpful to hear what someone's learned from their own experience. Now, what about those moments when you just crave a little treat?
Ah, yes, the dreaded cravings. Even the most dedicated keto followers get them.
Exactly. How does this person handle those moments when they're feeling a little deprived?
They have a pretty clever strategy, keto cheat days.
Keto cheat days. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's not about going crazy with carbs.
Right, that would undo all your hard work.
Instead, they designate like 1 or 2 days a week to enjoy some keto-friendly treats. They believe that by allowing these occasional indulgences, it actually helps them stay on track in the long run and prevents those feelings of restriction.
I love that idea. It's a much more sustainable approach than trying to be perfect all the time. Now, for those who are active and work out on keto, this person has some intriguing thoughts about carb timing.
They suggest that if you're going to incorporate carbs into your keto plan, the best time might be during your workout.
Really? I always thought the best time to have carbs was after a workout to replenish glycogen stores.
They highlight the concept of insulin-independent glucose uptake, which means that muscles can actually utilize glucose for energy without needing insulin.
So by having carbs during your workout, you're giving your muscles readily available fuel without spiking your insulin levels.
Precisely. This can be particularly beneficial for those who are focused on athletic performance and maintaining muscle mass.
It's a more advanced strategy, but definitely something to consider for anyone wanting to kind of optimize their keto results. Finally, let's talk about fasting, another hot topic in the keto world.
This person has a pretty interesting perspective on fasting, having tried various approaches over the years.
So what's their current take on incorporating fasting into a keto lifestyle?
They actually caution against excessive fasting, even though keto makes it easier to go without food for extended periods. They believe that excessive fasting can put too much stress on the body and potentially hinder recovery, especially when combined with keto.
That's a great point. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. They suggest a more moderate approach, recommending like intermittent fasting for a couple of days a week rather than every day.
That sounds like a much more balanced way to incorporate fasting. We've covered so much ground already. Wow, it's amazing how much you can learn from someone who's really been, down in the trenches of keto for a while. I mean, they've tested the theories, they've experienced the ups and downs, and now they're like sharing all this hard-earned wisdom.
It's like having that personal roadmap through the world of keto, right? Guiding you past all those potential pitfalls and toward, a more sustainable approach.
Yeah, and what really stood out to me was the importance of, ongoing learning and adaptation. The world of nutrition is always changing, and what might have been considered like the best approach a few years ago could be totally different now.
This person really embodies that mindset. They're not afraid to, challenge the conventional wisdom, experiment with new strategies, and just continuously refine their approach based on the latest research and their own personal experience.
It's a powerful reminder that there really is no one-size-fits-all approach to keto, or any dietary approach for that matter. What works for one person might not work for another. And what worked for you in the past, might need some tweaking as you kind of progress.
It's all about finding what works best for you, for your body and your lifestyle. And that requires, staying curious, being open to new information, and just being willing to experiment.
So as you continue on your keto journey, remember to, stay informed, keep experimenting, and really tailor your approach to your individual needs. And hey, who knows, maybe you'll discover some game-changing tips to share with your future self.
Until next time, happy diving.